Today on the show, we teach you how to be an expert in business-to-business sales. How's it going, everybody? Jason Croft here, the Credibility Craftsman. Today on the show, we've got James Smiley. He has run giant sales teams. He's brought in millions of dollars in revenue for his company and others over the years, and right now he's really specializing in taking all those skill sets that a lot of us have, and we're trying to, sell those and offer those to individuals or maybe some small businesses, and really wake us up to the fact that it's really possible to sell at a bigger level. This B2B sales doesn't have to be so scary and daunting. And in fact, the need for what a lot of us offer, whether it's video marketing like myself or Facebook ads, a lot of these huge corporations really need the help. They understand the value in a lot of this, but they haven't really jumped into a lot of these new marketing and new sales tactics. And the potential there for us as marketers and people who do this every day is massive, because essentially you can charge a lot more because you are delivering a lot more in terms of the results that they can get, because a 20% increase for a company of that size is a whole lot different than a 20% increase from an individual consultant, let's say. So we dive into a lot of tactics, and James just gives us so much value in this episode. So I'm going to stop rambling, and we're going to jump in with James Smiley. James Smiley, welcome to the show.
What's going on?
How's it going, man?
Good.
Look like I got in the car. All right, let me do my shades. I don't want people seeing my eyes.
Should I do mine?
Yes, that's perfect. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. We are going to drive, and we will not let you out of this vehicle until we get your story.
Awesome.
So, what is your story, sir? You are a master marketer. I'll start your story for you. And I know right now, your big superpower is dealing in the B2B space, and you have some new launches coming up and all of that. But give people a little bit of history on you and some of your superpower.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me hang out with you guys. And superpower is it's always a tough word, right? Because it's like, I try as hard as I can every day to see myself as normal as I can. This is something like my dad taught me or whatever. But I would say if I were just to throw something out there, like a true superpower that like most people wouldn't think is a superpower, but I think I've learned to embrace like failure, and instead of run from it or hide it or pretend it's not there. Because I think the more that I've embraced my failures, the faster I was able to move forward. And I've had people say how are you able to do this by 25 or this by 21 or this whatever. And it was always like, it's tough to like analyze, but when I really look at it, I really think I had great mentors young who taught me to embrace failures and to like really psychoanalyze them. Yeah. And to figure out like, what did you screw up on? Like, I could leave this car and maybe this happens so much in business or whatever, where you leave a situation and there's an awkwardness, right? Like we didn't get along or whatever, right?
I threw you off the side of the road.
Right. But I would specifically go back and analyze those situations and say like, man, what could I have done differently? How can I approach that differently? And I think like every time I did that, it allowed me to move like miles ahead of my peers and my competition.
So give me an example of that, of a time you really utilize that.
So, like a big example would be like, I was a part of helping start IPO a software company called Telenav. And so, we IPO'd a Silicon Valley startup before I was 30, but our stock, so I'm just going to tell you straight, like, I have pretty much had a house picked out in Malibu. We're IPOing, like, it's going to be huge, right? We're the only GPS navigation product out there. I think we owned like 70 or 80% of the market. This is before Google Maps and everything, right? And so I'm thinking, like, we're going to have an awesome IPO. I'm going to retire before I'm 30, those kind of things, right? Or at least, be well off or be whatever that means even.
Yeah.
But, but here comes along a company called Google. And, what people don't realize, especially in the SaaS business, is like, you can have a great product and offer a great service, but when Google comes along and gives it away for free, you pretty much don't have a company. And our stock had a reverse split, a 12-to-1 reverse split. So it wasn't just like...
So what does that mean?
So typically, like, a stock splits, and that's good. It means if you have 100 shares, now you have 200.
Right.
Well, reverse split is if you have 100 shares, now you basically have 50.
Cool.
So you basically get totally screwed, essentially.
Wow.
And so we had a 12-to-1 reverse, which means you take what you have, divide by 12, and that's what you're left with. Which is basically like when you live in LA, like, you can't buy a home, you can't buy there's like nothing to buy, right? Like, you can't buy a decent home, and you can't, you don't just want to go out there and spend money. So you're just like, I didn't want to, like, go buy a fancy car or whatever. So there's really, like, no lifestyle change at all. And I'm telling you, it was like a total failure, right? It was like, I felt really bad about it. I realized that the amount of money that I had made and the amount of money that I'd sacrificed over the years to help build that company, it did not ROI. Like, I would have been better off being a top salesperson for companies and continuing to make six figures or even sometimes multi-six figures, like doing that. I would actually made more money that way than being in the company.
Yeah.
And so it was like devastating. And most people who were, in the same situation as me, they took it really hard. They didn't change. But I looked at it and tried to figure out, like, how can this benefit me? Like, how can it make me better? And what I did was I spun off of there and leveraged the connections that I've made, the relationships that I've made, and the experience that I had, right? Like, we had, trained thousands of sales reps and done all this stuff. And so I leveraged all those big headlines that I had. And I think because I was in a mental state to even look at my failure, I was able to come up with, like, oh, hey, I did this right. We did this right. We did this right.
Oh, yeah. And to do that so soon after is huge.
Yeah. And then I realized, people want to pay me to know about that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, so it created this opportunity for me when I think, I remember, like, some people that were high up in the company, like, they wouldn't even talk about the IPO. They were embarrassed by it.
Wow.
Because it's kind of an embarrassing thing. It's like, you think, it's like saying you went to play in the NFL, but you didn't make any money.
Right.
Right? It's like, people think everybody in the NFL is rich. Most people are not rich who play in the NFL.
Right.
Just like people think everybody who IPOs a company is rich, and the reality is most people are not. And so 99% of people, I think, would never talk about that. They would hide it, or they would mention it, but they wouldn't want to explain it. And so I put it out there as the forefront of my story. And I've even had companies, pay me like almost six figures to help them navigate the waters to make sure that they don't run in the same situation we did. So,
that's great.
So yeah, I mean, that's, and I could give you examples on a personal level or whatever, but that's kind of on a business level.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, that's definitely a superpower. That's fantastic. I mean, because so many, I mean, I would say, human nature to sort of basically shy away from things that hurt, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to turn into those things and take it and go, all right, let me pick my head back up and go forward stronger than I was even before. I think that's huge. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in addition to that, I mean, I definitely want to, man, you got a great past and history, but I want to make sure that we're getting into really what you're digging in and doing right now and the way that you're helping stuff, because you've come from that bigger corporate side of things.
Yeah.
And you've got a little bit different approach now in your target and your focus.
Yeah.
Can you share that with folks?
Yeah. So I was an entrepreneur growing up, but I was a different type of entrepreneur than I am now, whereas I was more of like a Silicon Valley and a startup guy. Mm-hmm. So, when you're in that environment, you're really trying to build big companies is essentially what you're doing. I mean, what I learned in the VC world and playing in the venture capital world is venture capitalists don't want to give money to lifestyle entrepreneurs, people who want to live a 4-hour work week, right?
Sure. Which is fair.
Right, right, absolutely. And it's funny, if you ever hear people really like preaching the hustle gospel, so to speak, they're venture capitalists. They're Gary Vaynerchuk, who I love. But when he started his venture capital firm, then he's like, I'm all about the hustle. Let me tell you about how many hours I work. He wants to expose that life because he's trying to attract those kind of people, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to build those kind of people out there. And so very smart in how he does it. But so I grew up kind of in that kind of entrepreneurial world, and then had a 5-year stint at a big company like AT&T. So really learned like a lot about corporate. But now I'm kind of in this like solopreneur world, if you will, like this solopreneur entrepreneur world, which is a completely different game. And it's really, really fun and innovative. And the thing I love about it is, I grew up, I tell people like I grew up, a part of my like, comeback story, whatever you say is like I grew up, fairly, lower middle class or lower class, and then, like, my passion has always been to try to help other people get to where their dreams are. And when people say, like, hey, you can't achieve this because of where you're from or because whatever, like, I wanted to at least try to give them an opportunity, right? Yeah. And so now they got to step up and do the work and capitalize on it and all that.
It's not a handout situation.
Absolutely, not in any way. But yeah, so somebody offered me an opportunity when I was young, and so I kind of wanted to. It's been my life passion to be able to do that. So I'm really excited about what I'm doing now, and so we're really focused on trying to take the principles, that I've been taking to corporations myself, which is I've been going in and selling digital marketing services and online sales automation services, and going into companies and saying, I want to help you grow your revenue. I want to help you, go from being a $2 million company to an $8 million company, or an $8 million company to a $20 million company. And so I'm taking tools and resources like social media management, ads, online sales funnels, webinars, all those kind of things, and really just selling those services to big companies. And the thing about big companies is if you present it right, they will easily pay you $80,000 a year. You can get 2 or 3 contracts and be making $200,000-$300,000 a year pretty fast. Yeah. And so it's a totally different lifestyle than when I got exposed to all these kind of digital marketer crowd, internet marketer crowd people who were doing the same services that I offer, but they're doing it for like, they might get a client who pays them $3,000 a year, $5,000 a year. I'm like, you can take that exact same service and go offer it to a company that is a $2 million company, and they'll pay you $3,000 a month on a 10-month contract or a 12-month contract.
Because they're used to paying that.
Yeah.
And they see there is value in it, and they're going to ROI that like crazy.
Yeah. And so I just been helping people understand like all you have, like one of the biggest things you have to do is just present it differently. Like if you come up to a company knock on the door or whatever, and you say, hey, I want to run your Facebook ads.
Right.
Like, you've immediately diminished yourself, right? Like,
right.
It sounds like you're a tactical person. You're not a strategic person. You really don't have any strategic value. And it sounds like anybody can do what you do, right? I can go take a $19.99 Udemy course and run Facebook ads.
Right.
But if you come in and say, hey, I want to help you double your revenue in the next 24 months by using online automation, people go, online? I've been thinking forever, and I know I need to take my business online.
Yeah.
Or I know I need to streamline sales online. And every company right now, I mean, this is 2017. For the next 2 to 3 years, every single small and medium-sized company is trying to figure out how to scale and automate online. So the online space for people who know online marketing it's so wide open.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because, you know, the people in our space who are in that internet marketing space and they're out there, you know, listening to Gary Vaynerchuk and learning these things, it's kind of second nature to them at this point. And it's hard to kind of remind yourself a lot of times, like, okay, everyone's not doing this. Because when it gets in your world, you see everyone's doing this.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to remind yourself that, there are really big companies who are either, you know, they're, number one, they're running their business on Excel sheets still, you know, instead of software, and they don't know the first thing about social media and on and on. So I think that's genius.
Yeah, it's huge. And so what I try to tell people is, like, if you've never signed a 5 or 6 figure deal, just start out with companies who make like $500,000 to $5 million, or maybe $500,000 to $8 million. And here's the thing. Statistically, there's exponentially more of those kind of businesses now than ever before in the history of America.
Wow.
There are so many companies that make $500,000 to $2 million, or $2 million to $3 million. There's so many small businesses, entrepreneurs who have made it in the last 5 years. So that, you know, and the thing about the nature of their businesses, if you were to like rate them on a macro scale, is in general, they don't fully understand how they've gotten to where they are. They just happen to be in a great industry. The technology blew up, or they had a big partnership, and they've just soared and accelerated, and the CEO knew people, but they don't really have a sales process. They don't really have a sales team. They don't know their cost per lead, their cost per acquisition. They don't know how to get leads. Yeah. And so now they're at like a plateau. And that's where people like us come in, and the people I train come in, where we come in and say, look, I know you're at this plateau. I know you want to go from 3 million to 5 million, or 3 million to 4 million. Let me help you do that, and I'll help you do that in the most cost-efficient way possible, which is online. Instead of hiring all these salespeople, knocking on doors, doing all this stuff, you can reach your customers on the internet. And people know what that means, you know. And see, if you went to explain that to a company 2 years ago, they wouldn't fully understand you. They'd think they'd be skeptical, you know. But now, enough executives are online where they understand they
even
need
on
to
their
take
personal lives.
Yeah.
Or something. And they've seen enough headlines. They watched enough Gary Vaynerchuk or whatever, whoever it might be. That they get it. They get it just enough to know they need it.
Yeah.
And get to that next level. That's a great perspective.
Yeah.
So let's say, hypothetically, somebody owns a video marketing company. Wink, wink. So how do I take this? How would I take something like this with the services I offer and hit that next level, that B2B space?
The first thing I would ask you is, do you know the sales process? Have you ever done this before? Have you ever signed a 6-figure deal?
I have not.
Okay, so that's important for me to know. So if you haven't, which I would say yet, and yet for you guys too. So I would say number one of the biggest tips I can give you is start out with deals that are less than $250,000. So here's the statistic I learned. I really shouldn't say who, but I learned this at a big company, I'll just say. I think it is public knowledge, and this is why I can say it. But if the deal is about $200,000 or more, okay, those deals take about 8 to 12 weeks to close, and there's at least 7 decision makers involved in the process, okay?
Wow.
And now the reason I'm telling you that is the complexity of those deals is why people are watching this right now going, hey man, good for you. I ain't doing that. Okay?
Exactly. I've got to go, pay my employees tomorrow. I'm not gonna. Yeah.
Right. So, but the way to simplify it is, number one, to work on deals that are, anywhere from $3,000 a month to $10,000 a month. Those are pretty easy to get. And so that's the first place I would start. Is I would start with positioning yourself there.
In your offering, in your just overall package or whatever
Yeah,
it might be. Right?
yeah.
Okay.
It's very, very, very common for a company to pay a contractor $2,000 to $5,000 a month on a 12-month contract. Like, that is very, very, very common. So you're coming in and pricing yourself, at a very consistent, something that they're used to, right? The other thing is I would try not to sell features like I do video, or I do Facebook ads, or I do. So when you talk to executives, you want to talk on a more strategic level. Like, I help change the face of your business. I think you do a lot of this stuff really well. Actually, I've seen some of your stuff is like, you want to talk more strategic. Not like when you start talking to their marketing managers, yeah, they're going to want to know Facebook ad sets and, setting up custom audiences. And like, they're going to want to know all the technical stuff. But at the executive level, they just want to know about the results, right? And so, a lot of times you can sell a big deal just by talking to the executives and selling them on the vision and the dream. And so, I'll give you a part of the sales process that I teach. Is I'll give all of you guys are just going to get this for free, which is, you want to uncover the CEO's dream, right? Like, I was recently talking with a healthcare company, a small healthcare company, maybe like $5-8 million, and the CEO said, his dream was to be like the expert in his industry, and he had a book, and he knows how to do things on Facebook, and so but he said, yeah, I want to grow revenue. And I said, why do you want to grow revenue? Like, you have a good business now, you guys are cranking, like, what's the ambition? Like, what's the real thought behind it? And when he finally said, he's like, I just want to, like, be the expert. Like, I just feel like I'm built to be that person. Like, once he told me his dream, now I'm going to sell him access to his dream.
Perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm not selling him a book funnel, right? I'm not selling him a webinar. I'm selling him access to his dream, and how we get there is the book funnel, the webinar, Facebook ads, like ads, all those kind of things, right?
Gotcha.
And so I shared this on a podcast recently, is that I use this methodology that I learned from a guy named Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn used to be like the guy who mentored Tony Robbins. But
awesome guy.
Yeah, so Jim said this thing one time, this was like 15 years ago, and I was like, literally like didn't know anything in business, but I remember this, is he said, your customers are in hell. And he said, if you don't realize your customers are in hell, then you need to not be selling what you sell. And so I took that analogy and I was like, okay, if my customers are in hell, I need to understand like what that hell is. And so for this guy, the CEO, his hell was he doesn't feel like he can ever reach his dream.
It's obscurity.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. He's like, I'm always going to be one of many, but my call in the world is to be the expert, is to be the man, right?
Yeah.
And so I show him heaven. Okay, so now that I know what his hell is, I show him heaven. And so the heaven is like, well, what if I had you 250,000 people following you on Facebook? So when you fire up a Facebook Live, 600 people jump on, and you can talk to those people.
Yeah.
What if your book was a bestseller? What if you could give your book out for free and just be known as the guy who's giving so much into your industry, and through that you attract so many clients to you, like, and so I'm selling it, and I can just tell like his wheels are spinning. He's like, dude, this is amazing. I said, what if there's webinars out there that teach your 3 main lessons of your practice and why people need your service, but you're just talking about the value of it and the results, these emotional results that you get for your clients, and there's all these testimonials. And I said, so all that stuff we can set up for you. And I go, if you had all that, obviously you'd have revenue and, you'd have leads and those kind of things. Cause when you have a following that big, you can pull leads anytime. And so he said, man, that would be ideal. And when he said that would be ideal, now we're on the same page of what, like, quote, heaven looks like, right?
Yep.
So
now you just have to get them there.
Now I just sell them, what I've actually heard another entrepreneur say this, you sell them steps to heaven. So the steps are run Facebook like ads, set up content posts. So you're posting content every day, have a boost strategy of how you're going to boost that content, have an ad strategy, have a book funnel. Like, those are all the things that we know that we would usually go in and just like lead with.
Right.
But
you need a book funnel. You need a listen or why.
Right. That's exactly what they're saying. They're like, sounds cool, but man, I got a company to run, and I don't know if I have time for a book funnel, and do I really want to push my book, or do I want to build my company? So like, when you position it like, man, let's just get you to your dream, and who cares like what the steps are? Let's just get you there.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the beauty too, because it's all, yes, it's tactical, it's psychological steps and triggers, but what's great is that it's all for the greater good. Because you can deliver on all of that. And that's the icing on the cake, is because all of this works, and now because you utilize all this, you win, he wins, and it's you're off to the races. Yeah.
And when you get a deal like that, like, you can tell somebody, look, I'll run you, 200,000 likes of real people, real fans. We'll run a book funnel. We'll create webinars, and you say, all that. So here's how you position the actual sale, because at some point you're gonna have to position the price. Right. So guys sold on the dream. Thumbs up, man. Let's do it. High fives are going around or whatever. Right. Virtual high fives. Like, everyone's on the same page. Then it comes time for you to talk about, hey man, this is going to cost you some money. Okay. So how do you do that?
So this is awesome. So you've got him sold on the fact that he needs this. And now it's time to get into price. And like, that is going to come up eventually.
And this is where the rubber meets the road, right? This is why everyone watching is like, cool, but dude, I can't do this. Okay. Like, no one's buying $100,000, $120,000 product from me. Okay. Well, trust me, they will. And here's the thing. Like, it's all about how you position it, right? Like, have you ever seen analogies of like, what's the fundamental difference between like, I don't know, like a Bentley and a BMW? Like, people, I don't know cars that well, but I've seen these like analogies, and people are like, the frame's the same, the motor's the same, like this and that, whatever. And they're like, the only real difference is these few cosmetics, and the doors open different, and it looks different in the name. But fundamentally, it's the same. And so I would use that same analogy with what you guys do and what we do, which is, you're going to offer the same service that people go out there and charge $1,000 a month and slave to keep that person on for 3 months. You're going to offer those same services, but now they're going to pay you $10,000 a month for it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's all about taking the BMW frame off of it and putting the Bentley frame on it. Okay, or whatever that means. Like, I'm not a car guy, but that's what I'm talking about.
I remember Frank Kern talking about that.
I think it was Frank Kern. Yeah. So anyway, so here's the deal. Like, working with so many executives, I've realized that when I'm pitching this kind of deal, I'm not just talking about a tactical person. Like, they'll go, the first thing they're going to start doing is they're going to think, well, do we have a marketing manager who can do this? The answer, truthfully, is no. Okay. Now, they might have somebody who can run some like ads or do some basic stuff, but they don't have somebody who can run the strategy. Because when you talk about strategy, you have to have an executive. That's why they hire executives, is to run the strategy of the organization. So you position it as, you say, look, there's 2 ways I can deliver this dream for you, okay? One is I'm very well connected in this industry, and if you need to hire people to do this, there's 3 positions you're going to need, and I can get you those 3 people. I can find you the best people, and literally you can offer that as a service. Like you can recruit the people for them, do the interviews, set them up with interviews with their executives, and make sure they're comfortable, and bring those people on. And they'll pay you. They'll probably pay you like $6,000 to $8,000, $6,000 to $10,000 to do that. Okay,
broker the whole thing, right?
Yeah, and you just broker in them hiring the people. Okay, here's the deal. Why are they not going to want to do that? Cost.
Yeah.
Okay, to hire a online VP of sales and marketing.
Oh yeah.
Someone who can manage the graphics and all the design work, and a marketing manager who can actually do implementation. You're talking like $300,000 to $500,000.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you tell them like, look, number one, I can bring these people on, and this is what I do. I give you the dream. It's only going to cost you, $300,000 to $500,000 in salaries, and boom, like you got it. Okay. Now right away they're going, holy smokes, I didn't. Time out, man. They're like, I didn't know we were talking about that. And then you go, the other thing I can do, and this is what I prefer, is that you just hire me and my experts that I work with will do it for only $10,000. And so that's where you slide in your price. And now you've totally, now you have a lot of leverage in the pricing discussion, to where, now it's like $10,000 does not seem like a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's less than they're going to pay an executive for sure. So, and then you say, look, not only are you paying me less, but I don't have to show up to your team meeting. You don't have to report on me and all the paperwork to HR and all my vacation time and track all this stuff and take me through training and all this stuff. Like, I'm just going to get you the results.
Yeah.
And it costs you a fraction, right? A key word is, a key phrase is in executive leadership. There's a word that's really hot right now called fractional leadership, which is I want a president or a VP over this area, but I only want a fraction of that person at a fraction of the cost, right? Yeah. And so you can say that, you can say, look, you're basically getting a fractional vice president of marketing and a fractional marketing team. And all we're going to do is get you the results, right? You don't have to pay for our benefits. You don't have to pay for all of our liabilities or whatever. We're just going to work with you and get you the results. And so it's a true win-win. And then now it depends on who the marketer is, but what I do a lot is I'll go out and hire a really good marketing person, digital marketer, for $4,000 or $5,000 a month to manage that account. Awesome. And to run that. And so now that person is like loving me because I just brought him a $4,000 a month, 12-month contract, and they didn't even market to me. Right. Like, I just message them and say, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but we talked like 6 months ago and I asked you all the stuff you do, and hey, I got a deal. I can bring you in the next 30 days. Here's what you need to do. And it's $4,000. And they're just like, so it is a true win-win situation where now I'm just managing the corporate relations with the executives. Some other digital marketer, like I hire a guy in Australia sometimes. I hire, some people in the US, some people in the UK, whatever. Like I find really good, this is what I would do. Get a quality person. Don't get like a $500 a month person. Get a seriously like results-driven person, someone who's going to own that whole account, own that whole strategy, someone who will build out the webinars, build it all out. And I'm telling you, for $4,000 or $5,000 a month, you can find a serious top-notch person to run that whole thing. And now you're netting $5,000 a month to yourself,
and you're off to the next deal.
Yeah, and it's like an unbelievable model. So that's the system that we've kind of created and that we're teaching people. And,
that's awesome.
I love it, man, because it's legitimate. Like, this thing actually works and people are getting results. It's crazy.
That's so great. I love that so much, and I know the course is going to go into it is so much deeper into the hows and the systems in place and all
like
that,
templates, PowerPoint template, like the contracting, all that stuff. Like, we just give you the whole thing. That'll just be
massively valuable. That's so incredible. And the big thing at the core of all of that is that mindset shift, right? And to get out of one-on-one-to-one sales and get to that B2B mindset, I think is fantastic.
Yep.
So what are some of the I guess what's the pushback that you've had when trying to sort of teach this? Maybe the myths that are out there a little bit, but some of that I can't do it attitude a little bit.
Yeah. The first thing that when people start listening to me that they think is I can't do it because I can't pitch AT&T. You don't have to. I'm not even saying. In fact, don't go try to pitch AT&T. You're going to waste your time.
But yeah, their mind goes immediately there.
Yeah,
like immediately top.
Don't go to Toyota. Don't go to all the big brands. Go to. There's so many. I mean, there's literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of small companies that are, like I said, they're between $500,000. It's really ideal. You can find them between like 1 and 8 million. There's just a tremendous amount of those companies where they will invest money to grow.
Nice.
And so, and they have the budgets to grow. And so that's where I would focus. And there's a lot of ways you can meet them. You can go to business networking meetings. I mean, we live in Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
You can go to even if you don't go to a church, you can go to a church business networking meeting and you're in a room with 1,000 business owners.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be a part of the church.
Yeah.
You can just go, right? That's a place you can network. We met up in meetup.com, right? You can attend meetup.coms. So really what you need to do is you need to go where those executives are. Another really cool thing that I just started doing, I'm always looking for innovative ways to find and meet executives is there's a lot of country clubs in a lot of these cities. And there's a lot of rich country clubs.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. If you go to the country club and say, hey, I run, I have a free download. People can get this. It's called the Roadshow Funnel, and it's a map of the Roadshow Funnel. But if you get that, you can basically go into a country club and say, hey, I do a free roadshow for business executives who are between. You want to say something high if you're going to go to a high-end country club. You want to say hey, I do a roadshow for companies between 5 and 50 million, and it teaches them all about how people are scaling online sales and blah, blah, blah. Here's my information. Would you like to give it to the country club executives, the people who run the country club? Yeah. See, at a country club, there's all kinds of business gatherings that happen. There's repeated meetings of people who are in the country club, and they have their men's breakfast. They have the ladies have theirs. They have the technology people have their meetings. These people, they're part of the country club. They pay a lot of money per month, and they use the country club. They use the rooms and all this stuff. And so you essentially can go in there and just talk to the receptionist and say, hey, I run this event, and I'd be willing to run it for free for your people. And let me just say, if you get one meeting at a country club, that's a big country club, you're going to talk and do your pitch in front of 20 multimillionaires.
Right.
Okay.
Potentially, there's your year.
Yeah. I mean, and I've done this. I've done that where I've gotten into one, and that allowed me to get into another and another. But the first one I got into, it has. Just the 2 or 3 relationships I built out of a 30 person group, the 2 or 3 relationships are worth multiple 6 figures.
Wow,
that's
awesome.
And so when you do the roadshow, probably don't have enough time to just fully divulge the whole thing. But like I said, if somebody downloads the free download, they can see that whole map.
Sure, and we'll put links up for everybody out there as well.
Okay, cool.
To be able to do that.
Yeah, so but the roadshow essentially is like a webinar, but it's a place where you can stand up in front of those executives. And what I found in training hundreds and hundreds of sales reps that worked for me, and literally I've trained thousands of sales reps if you count people at conferences and stuff. But what I found is you don't want to go showcase your stuff sitting at a boardroom. You don't want to be eye to eye. You want to be able to stand up and give a presentation.
Oh, that's great.
And if you can
the
give
psychological aspect of that.
When you can give a presentation, there's a level of authority that you have that you just don't have if you're, you just don't have that authority if you're sitting at a boardroom like talking to them.
Yeah.
So, so that's the key is, you know, if somebody's watching and they're saying, yeah, like, I don't ever want to present in front of somebody, this is probably not your gig,
Sure.
right? But if you're willing to put in the work and do a few stand-up presentations a year, especially like there's so many digital marketers, they can talk.
Oh, yeah.
Like you give them a microphone, they can talk. Or you
Right.
put them up in front of people on a whiteboard, they can go off, right? Or just get the .com secrets book and just do that whole book on the whiteboard. Right?
Right.
Like literally, like you can do that and people will go, man, this person, this guy, this gal is an expert. Like we need to talk to this person.
Oh,
and
that's
then at the
genius.
end, they just walk up to you and they're like, man, I got to talk to you. Like, I know this person or this, you know, and basically what you do from there is you just set up one-on-ones and you'll set up 5 or 6 one-on-ones and boom, you're off to the races. I mean,
Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah.
That's so smart.
And then when they refer you to people, you're not just like, hey, there's a guy I met or a girl I met and, you know, we had a meeting. It's like, it's different. It's like, this is the person who did this seminar. You know what I mean? Like just overall.
Just those words bring the authority. That's huge.
Yeah, the authority and the credibility just has to be there. So that's what I found. Like when you're pitching these type of deals, if they associate you with the type of person who did a seminar, they already know you're not $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Like they know that in their head, you know. And so that just really helps set up the sale.
So this is awesome stuff, James. What are some other limiting beliefs and I guess myths out there about this? The mindset that you have to have.
Yeah, so I find it's one, people don't feel like they can get leads. 2, they just don't think that they can do it because they think the companies have to be big. And 3, they don't feel confident in pitching that kind of price tag because they've never done it.
Yeah.
And so I just shared, you know, how to get simple, easy leads. And in our system, we really have 4. I just told you one of 4 ways to get instant leads. Like people come into our program and they get leads like within a few days. You know,
wow.
like literally within a few days, they'll have booked meetings, they're doing presentations and stuff like that. So and then you know, we talked about, you know, you don't have to go to the big companies, go to the right size companies. And that's gonna really, really up your chances exponentially of getting a deal closed if you go to the right size companies. And then the third one is like, how do you go about actually what's the discussion of a, you know, $10,000 a month price tag?
Yeah,
right?
you've got them in there. Maybe you've given a presentation. You're seen as the authority. They buy into it that you know what you're doing.
Yep.
But yeah, then how do you transition that into the offering?
Yeah. So the thing that I've learned in sales, even when I was young, is you always want to start high with a believable price tag that anchors the conversation. So like if you go buy a car, typically the cars that are going to sell that day have a price drop on them. This is known. Like if you go into a grocery store, like the social like psyche behavior is the things that are going to sell the most are things with a price drop. Walmart used to have this commercial where the price was falling off, right? It was showing that the prices are always dropping. So in corporate sales, you want to have the same approach, but you want to make sure you're not doing it sleazy, right? You want to make sure you're not like sounding like, but wait, there's more. You know, you don't want to do that, right?
For $19.99, you
right? And you get 2. You know, like
you get 2 book funnels for the price of one. Yeah.
Right. So what I do is, one, I anchor off of a really high price point, and I have this written out in like a guide that we use, so you can prep for every meeting where you want to write down in that guide. This is a personal guide for the salesperson. You want to write down what is my high price point going to be. Okay, so that could be $300,000 to $500,000. Yeah, and then so you say, okay, $300,000 to $500,000 is what it cost for to hire these people. Okay, now if you're somebody like me, I would also throw in, because I've been an executive for big companies, I could say, look, you could hire me for $300,000 or $400,000 a year, but not everyone's going to be able to do that, right? You don't have that background. So don't fake it. You don't need to fake it. Yeah. So don't fake it, because what you're saying has to be believable. Okay, if you have never been paid $300,000, executives know the type of person who has.
Right.
They know the mentality. So if you go in there and say, "Well, I can make $300,000 doing this," they're going to look at you and they're going to go bogus, right? They're going to know something's up. So don't do that. So just if that's not you, don't play that card. Play the card that's I can bring in the right people, and those people are going to cost this amount. So now I've set a high price point. The next thing that I learned this from a top sales rep one time is there's a way to actually up that price point in a very sly way. So I've come in and said, look, $300,000 to $500,000. The next thing I'll do is say, look, as you know, there's competitors out there, big consulting firms that will come in and they start at $500,000 to do something like this, right?
So first you've actually gone up now.
Yeah. So you know, there's a saying in business sales, like you don't want to be the first guy to say the price, but pretty much you're going to have to be, right? Yeah. So unless the person doesn't know what they're doing, which typically somebody who has that kind of business, they know what they're doing. So you're going to have to play the card first. So you say, hey, $300,000 to $400,000 is what it'll cost you for employees. But there's competitors out there of what I do, and there's big consulting firms, and they'll take you through all their paperwork and all their people, and they're going to start at $500,000. So now I just went up, right? Yeah. So now they're going, I love it, but I can't do it. I love it, but I definitely can't do it at that price. And then you start your price drop, and you come down and you say, look, and that's why I'm willing to do it at $10,000 a month on so instead of saying 10,000, I would start, the price drop would come down higher. I'd say, look, I will do it for only $25,000 a month. And this is legitimate. I will do it for $25,000 a month on a month-to-month deal. But if you want to sign a 12-month deal, I'll do it for $10,000 a month on a 12-month deal, and that'll just help make it easier for you to get into that commitment.
Yeah, helps them pay for it. Helps
yes.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. So now they've gone from $500,000 to $25,000 a month. They're going to think about that in their head, and they're going to know what that price is. Then they're going to be like, okay, this is actually only $120,000 a year, which is a good deal. You know, instead of being like $250,000 or something like that at the 25, right. They're like, man, this is actually a good deal. This is only $120,000, and then so that's kind of the way that I'll stair step it down, and then then you kind of want to feel them out. But what I typically do from there is I anchor off of the results. So when I bring that up, I say, look, to get you, I go right back to the results. I'll say, to get you to that dream, to make you the expert, to make you this, to make you known, to make you the industry leader, it's only going to cost you $10,000 a month to get that started. And
now, boom and boom. Now they've got in their head this mental picture of these two things right side by side. If I just pay this, I get this.
Yes.
Boom.
Yeah. In the moment, and at that point, don't go into all the details. Don't just start. This is where I see a lot of salespeople fumble. Is they'll start saying, and I just want to be super clear, I'm going to do this funnel and set up this domain. It's like
start going back through the whole list of
the moment you start, like, they're close to buying if they're listening to you at that point.
Just shut
up. Just be quiet and basically say, look, another thing that I'll do is I'll take them right to so this strategy is called, there's a number of phrases for it, but essentially what you're doing, you're trying to move them past the price. Okay. You just told them the price is only $10,000 a month, but you want to move them past that, move the conversation over that. Don't make the whole conversation about $10,000 a month. So take them back to the results, start talking about that. Mm-hmm. The other thing you can start talking about is I can take payment any which way you want. We can even do it on a credit card. We can do it through bank transfer, whatever. So just let me know how you want to do it. Perfect. Okay. Now, so when I say just let me know how you want to do it, that's called a choice close. Nice. Which choice, right? Like I'm making the decision easier for them. So that's typically what I'll do in this situation. It works really well. Is I'll give them a choice close of, which one do you want to do? Do you guys want to do the 12-month or the month by month, or which way do you guys want to pay? Or I may not come out and say which way do you want to pay, but I'll say which payment method would make more sense. Now we're going to start talking about that, and I've just moved the conversation past $10,000 a month. And now I'm moving into like what people call an assumptive close, where so there's multiple closes that happen in a sale. Like even Russell Brunson teaches this in his webinar thing, where there's he does like 9 closes or 16 closes or something like that. In corporate sales, there's the same thing. There's the assumptive close, there's the choice close, there's all these closes, and I go through them in my in our product. But the choices close is very easy to talk about. And then once you got them down one of those holes, one of those kind of rabbit holes, you're now in an assumptive mode that $10,000 is okay.
Yeah.
Right. So now we're just talking about, yeah, well, can we do a credit card? Well, what if we just do bank transfers? You know what I mean?
Right.
So
right, and they're past the price, and there's the assumption there, but you're also not leaving them with a yes or no.
Yes. Yes. Never. Yes. Good point. Don't ever leave them with a yes or no. Don't ever say, do you want to do it? Don't ever say, what do you think? Right. Like whenever I was at a meeting and a salesperson said that, I immediately started talking. Like I would not let the person answer that question. Do not ask them, what do you think? It's the wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
So
that makes total sense.
So yeah.
That's wow. I love all of this so much.
Yeah.
So much value with all this. This is fantastic. I can only imagine what your courses.
Yeah. and what's really cool is like we lay out this talk track so that a person fills it out. And this is the same thing that I've taught at multiple different companies, literally taught hundreds of sales reps how to do this script. And they fill it out before they go into the meeting of what their price point's going to be, what their value propositions are, what the objectives of the meeting are, like what are they going to try to sell. They've done the research. And even if you haven't done the research on who the person is, sit in your car for 5 minutes and look it up on your phone. Look at their company, look at their LinkedIn, figure out some stuff. And then as you go through the meeting, it looks like you're just taking business notes, right? But you're actually planning out your sale and how you're going to close. You're basically mapping out how you're going to close, and you're basically checking off different points. So it walks you right through. There's a movie, it's probably not like a really good movie, but there's a movie called The Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, yeah.
Where like I loved this guy's story. I knew about his story long before the movie, where he created a sales script that he taught 80 inside sales reps how to pitch it 100 times a day.
Yeah.
And so this sales script was so rock solid. And I had heard about this long before the movie, that there was this guy named Jordan something, and he had created this sales script, and he taught 80 people to pitch it 100 times a day. Wow. And by the time he was 24, I think he built like a $26 million business doing that. And so I took that when I was in my 20s. I was like, I'm going to figure out a sales script that I can teach 20 or 50 or however many sales reps I have. And so that's essentially what this is it's like the perfect B2B sales script that walks you through exactly how to, tick. It's kind of like a tick sheet. You're ticking through each part of the conversation, and you know exactly where it's going, and you know how to close, and it's a thing of beauty.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, James, how can people find out more just about you, connect with you and everything, but also about this new offering that you've got going on?
Yeah, so thanks for that. So people can connect with me at jamessmiley.org, and all the information is there. The product is called B2B Funnel Secrets, and there's been a number of big companies and big experts in the kind of information space, content marketing, internet marketing space who have asked me to come out with this. Nice. And that's really how I've finally come out and done this, where
pushed out.
Yeah, typically I didn't want all my secrets out, but people have said, look, man, like there's so many people that need this, and it's true. I mean, it's people should not be selling their services, their digital marketing services, for $1,000, $500, $800, $1,500, $2,000 a month. They should not be doing that. And I can tell you for sure, if you're doing that, you're getting ripped off, for sure. You like, and not only are your prices low, but the people you're working with are not going to value you. They're not going to really see you as an expert. They're always going to be looking over your shoulder. And so, yeah, I mean, I actually tried it. I took a big Facebook ads course, spent $1,000 on it, took the whole course over a weekend, went out the next week, picked up like 4 or 5 chiropractors and dentists, at like anywhere from $1,000 to like $2,000 a month. And I can tell you for sure, in like 2 months, none of those people saw value in me. A lot of them, took what I was doing and basically said, well, now that we know the ad sets and all this, why do we need you? I mean, it's just, you just have a different, like level. There's really almost no credibility. You just come in as like a tactical person, and tactical people, they're just like, well, we have an admin out front who checks in people. We can teach her how to hit the boost button or whatever they think you're doing, right?
Right.
They don't see the value in what you're doing at that kind of price point and with that kind of pitch.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So we need a 360 camera. Check everything out. But yeah, and I found that in my business so much too, over and over again. You finally have to develop that instinct for it, that it's not about the extra $500 or $1,000 that you're going to get. It's the headache that's going to come along with this person.
Yeah.
That's going to cost you way more than they could ever pay you.
So like we went into a chiropractor when I was doing this, just trying to test this thing out with the lower end ticket stuff that I learned in this course. Mm-hmm. And I was like, we went into a chiropractor that had multiple locations. We ran his ads. We did everything we said we were going to do. We were going to get him leads. We were going to get him more than 10 leads in a week. We did that. And then we said, hey, once we do that, will you pay us $1,500 a month? And essentially, he kind of felt like if we could do it and do it that fast, then why couldn't he teach his admin, who he already pays, to do the same thing?
Wow.
And so essentially, the guy never paid. Oh. And so I started learning, like, the systems that are out there, they may work in some niche situations, but I think to really scale a real business that can make you significant amounts of money, where you have guaranteed income every month, you have to do it in a smarter way. You need a little bit more structure. You need to have some type of agreement on both ends of the table.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's just,
and that comes at either that B2B level that you're talking about, so that bigger entity that values that already, or it comes in, okay, now I need to get 100 chiropractors to make this work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had some people message me and say, like, hey, James, what do you mean by B2B? Because I sell to chiropractors. What do you mean by B2B? And I think for me, with what we do, is what I'm talking about companies that will, even more than just B2B, I'm talking about companies that will sign a 5- and 6-figure contract with you. Nice. That's what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, I don't care if it's an individual or whatever. Typically, they're small companies. But yeah, I'm talking about companies that will sign a serious deal and allow you to come in and get them serious results.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Talk about results. Man, out there producing, giving us an amazing amount of value, and I really appreciate that. Thanks for coming on, and we'll link up all these show notes without a doubt. Make sure we send people your direction. And James, thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate hanging out with you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Appreciate you guys.
See you later.
All I can say is, I told you so. I mean, James brought massive value in this episode. I was driving, otherwise I would have been taking notes the whole time. I mean, it was just great insight after great insight from somebody who has done it and continues to do it today. And that's really his specialty right now, is helping people do exactly what he's done over the years and really master the art and science of selling to larger corporations. So it's been awesome. Make sure you reach out to James with his contact info there. We'll have it all linked up in the show notes at thejasonscroft.com. And if you like interviews like this, please subscribe to the YouTube channel right here. And if you're listening on iTunes, make sure you subscribe there as well if you haven't already. And please leave us a review. It helps us get found by more folks. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
It's Saturday night.
It was Saturday night and I'm feeling kinda silly. Winter coat on cause the air was chilly, but I'ma make my way out to the record spot. Gotta find some new breaks for the beats to rock. I gotta come with the flavor. flavor like some lifesavers. Or now and later, Dr. Beat Maker. If I'm a player, it's like a tape deck. And if you miss the gig, then take a rain check. Stacks of wax piled high to the ceiling, need a U-Haul truck if I would think about stealing. But it's not my steed, so I commence with the digging, no kidding. Something that'll keep the beats hitting what I'm getting. So much to choose from, bro.